Hello everyone, Bashrob here, and in this video I'm going to show you everything you need to know to never fear Timberwolves ever again. Are you worried the upcoming wildlife refresh will do this? It seems many people play the game pretending the regions containing Timberwolves don't exist because they don't want to deal with them as they find them too hard or too unpredictable. And it is true to some extent. If you come unprepared and don't have the means to deal with Timberwolves, they are very likely to kill you. But if you are prepared, they are not as bad as they might seem. Just like with wolves, you have three options of dealing with them. Either use items to prevent them from biting you and ignore them, scare them off by draining their morale, or kill them. And this time I am going to cover killing them first, as I need to point out some important things about Timberwolf behavior that are easier to explain when showing how to kill them. First, let's cover stealth killing real quick. Timberwolves can spot you from quite far away. Chances are, if you don't know where exactly they spawn, they will spot you before you are able to sneak up on them. This also means if you want to use stealth, you need to be accurate over relatively long distances. If you take your time, you could kill an entire pack using stealth only. The same strategies that work with black wolves, shown in the previous video, work with timberwolves as well. Aurora timberwolves are even more difficult to stealth kill, as they spot you from very far away. But it doesn't really matter if you don't get them all without being spotted. If you kill even one timberwolf while crouching and the other one spots you, the fight will still be at least a little bit easier. And even if you don't, just getting closer to the pack at the start of the fight can be an immense advantage. The first timberwolf that spots you will howl for a couple seconds before focusing on you. So if that timberwolf is nearby, you can just score an easy kill before the fight even begins. Now, tips on how to actually fight them head on. Probably the single most important thing about fighting timberwolves, and the most important thing you should take from this video, is to be able to recognize which wolf is going to attack next. Even though you are technically fighting a whole pack, only a single timberwolf will attack you at a time, and it is possible, and pretty easily so, to tell which one. The timberwolf that's about to attack will always bark in a distinct way, then charge a second later and try to bite you. At that point, you'll either kill it or scare it, or you get bitten. Listen to this bark. This specific wolf is about to attack. All other wolves are not a threat to you at this point. Focus on that singular wolf that barked and nothing else. When killing timberwolves head on like this, you want to enter aim mode when you see at least one getting close to you, and then be patient and wait for this bark. Once you know which wolf attacks, you need to be quick and aim before it gets you. Hitting the head from up close shouldn't be too difficult. But timberwolves actually have two types of attacks. Most of the time they use the passing attack I just described, where one timberwolf that's about to attack barks, then bites you and runs away. But sometimes they act more like black wolves and charge you, resulting in a struggle. In this case, the timberwolf behavior is completely different. When timberwolves are about to use this type of attack, the whole pack will just stare at you instead of running around, and the wolf that's planning to charge will bark 3 times distinctly and only then charge. It is possible to tell which type of attack will timberwolves use, as the triple bark charging attack is only used in specific areas where timberwolves are scripted to behave differently. The only pack that spawns in a scripted area like this is the cannery pack in Bleak Inlet. If you lead this pack out of the cannery, they will revert to the passing attack mode again. Many other scripted areas where timberwolves will start acting like this once you lead them there. Some areas I know are near the 2 cannery trailers, near the lookout, and near the hunting blind by the bridge. I don't really know of any scripted areas in Blackrock, but it's likely there are some in there as well. As far as weapons and hit regions go, it's not really that different from Black Wolves I discussed in the previous video about killing wolves. Rifles and bows will guarantee a kill, as long as you hit the head or the neck. The main difference with Timberwolves is that they do have more health, so body shots will never be guaranteed to kill them, even with Archery 5. And the flare gun bug also applies here. If you are gonna use the flare gun, aim anywhere except the head, as headshots will never insta-kill Timberwolves. Now, what happens if you actually do get hit? If a passing attack does hit you, one of 4 things will happen. You will either get blood loss, torn clothing, minor bruising, or major bruising. You never get sprains from passing attacks, so you don't have to worry about being unable to use weapons. Torn clothing doesn't deal damage, but damages all your outer layer clothes. The condition damage depends on the clothing. Some items get destroyed very easily, and some are barely affected. What I like to do when fighting Timberwolves is to strip naked as a precaution, so if some wolf does manage to bite me, it doesn't damage most of my clothes. The downside is that they will deal more damage like this as you don't have any protection on. However, I don't recommend stripping completely. It's good to keep one item on yourself, as the torn clothing event after being bitten can only happen if you have clothes on. If you wear some random clothing you can afford to lose, it lowers the chance for minor bruising and especially for blood loss to happen. My favorite item to use for this is the Moose Satchel. It doesn't get damaged too much and is very easy to repair with just 1 cured leather, which is easy to beachcomb for, and it repairs 75% of its condition. Knowing all this, killing most Timberwolf packs isn't all that different from having to kill 2 charging black wolves in a row. Of course, you can play it a bit more safe and use a fire or some safe spot to fight Timberwolves if you don't want to risk being bitten. The downside is that it's much harder to hit them this way, especially the head. If you hit them in the body, they will still bleed out eventually, but it's a pain to collect all the arrows. But it does work pretty well with the rifle. If you don't want to start a fire, there are plenty of safe spots you can use to fight Timberwolves without having to worry about being bitten. One of my favorite safe spots is in the cannery. Right when you enter, there's a bunch of barrels and you can just walk on top of them and the Timberwolves will be unable to reach you. I like to crouch and not move for a bit, and usually they start ignoring me and walking around, giving me an opportunity to kill them much more easily. There is another safe spot in case you get spotted before reaching the cannery. You can stand on top of a stack of wooden pallets. Bringing the Timberwolves near this spot is quite difficult though, especially during an aurora, as there's a lot of light, so their pathing is kinda weird. Some safe spots can be downright cheesy. In Bleak Inlet, you can sometimes find these large bushes spread around the delta area. These bushes actually don't have collision, and you can sort of hide in them, and it makes Timberwolves almost unable to reach you, which makes it a lot easier to kill them. Snow shelters and fire cheese also work, just like with wolves, but they are not nearly as reliable. With snow shelters, it seems like one of the timberwolves, the one that is trying to attack you, can still see you, and you need to be careful to not stand on the edge of the shelter as it could bite you, but the other ones will not see you. So snow shelters are basically a way to become stealthy even after timberwolves spotted you. If they get too far, you can just hop off the shelter so they aggro and come closer. Fires don't work very well against regular timberwolves, as they get scared very easily, but they are amazing against Aurora timberwolves, as they are not scared of fires by default, but at the same time they don't come close enough to actually bite you. So starting a fire and crouching on top of the cooking spots is a really easy way to deal with Aurora timberwolves. If you are new to timberwolves, stacking protection bonuses can still help you feel a little bit safer, and if you do screw up, it will not be punished as harshly. If you're not up for fighting the wolves and just want to pass through the area and explore, you only need to carry a light source that deters timberwolves from attacking. Just like with any other wildlife, lanterns won't help you, but torches, fires, and both types of flares can deter timberwolves from attacking you just fine. Unlike with wolves, you cannot reliably walk through timberwolves, otherwise you get bitten, so take your time. If you carry a torch or a red flare and you're not weak, the wolves typically don't stand in your way much. As you can see here, they run away almost immediately. If you are weak, the wolves hang around for much longer and you definitely don't want to walk through them. Marine flares make the wolves hang around regardless if you're weak or not, probably to make it easier to drain their morale, as they were designed for scaring timberwolves away rather than deterring them. Still, if you're really quick, for example if you are sprinting downhill, it's possible to get bitten even when holding a torch or a flare and not being weak, so it's best to walk around wolves whenever they cross your way. And if you are surrounded, you can just wait a couple seconds, they always run off after a while. I talked about the weak status in the previous video about wolves, but if you don't remember, let me refresh your memory. If you have a sprain of any kind, blood loss, you are exhausted, over-encumbered, or you have low condition, then you are seen as a weak target, and it makes wolves act differently. None of these light sources work against Aurora timberwolves. Those are extremely hard to deter from attacking. The only thing that reliably works is the flashlight. A quick flash of a high beam light will stop even charging timberwolf. However, how timberwolves react to the light source you're carrying depends on whether they are in passing mode or in charging mode, which I explained in the previous section. Flashlights still work against charging Aurora timberwolves, but they don't work against the ones that stand still, so it's best to just walk around those. Interestingly enough, marine flares deter Aurora timberwolves that are in struggle mode, but only if you hold them. The moment you drop the flare, even if it's just for a short bit to light another one, you are vulnerable and one of the wolves will likely charge, and the flare won't stop an already charging timberwolf, so only use marine flares if you are passing through and won't need to light more than one. Aurora timberwolves are scared of electronics powered by the Aurora, just like all other Aurora wildlife. That alone can get you past Aurora timberwolves in the cannery, if you know the path and aren't too unlucky with how they spawn. You just need to get to the left side of the cannery ASAP. The Aurora timberwolves are very reluctant to go anywhere near it, since it's so well lit. To sum up, All open fire light sources work reliably against Timberwolves in both modes, while only the flashlight works reliably against Aurora Timberwolves in both modes. The difference in Timberwolf behavior is even larger when you throw items at them. Throwing anything except rocks always works against Timberwolves, and even rocks have a chance to scare them as long as you hit them directly. But nothing works reliably against Timberwolves when they are in charging mode. Your best bet are red flares, which do work reliably as long as you aren't weak. Torches and marine flares aren't guaranteed to scare every wolf nearby, and neither are stones, and even noisemakers don't work reliably here. Timberwolves in charging mode are probably the only wildlife type that doesn't always flee from noisemakers. Sometimes they just stop charging and stand still, but there's a good chance the wolf will attempt to charge again before you can use another noisemaker. With Aurora Timberwolves, the situation is fairly simple. Pretty much nothing works against them in struggle mode. The noisemakers work similarly to non-Aurora Timberwolves, it just stops them from charging. Noisemakers still do work against passing mode Aurora Timberwolves though. Overall, throwing items is not a reliable strategy for the most part, so it's pretty much always better to just carry the light source rather than throw it. And if you're trying to throw items in order to drain Timberwolf morale, make sure you have a lit fire or you're standing in a safe place they can reach you. But more on that later. Weapons scare both regular Timberwolves and their Aurora variants quite effectively. All weapons are guaranteed to make both variants flee, as long as you don't shoot them too late when they're about to bite you. Even fire-hardened arrows alone can completely protect you from Aurora Timberwolves, but unlike all other weapons, they do have to hit the Timberwolf. So if you're a good shot and like a challenge, you don't need anything more than a bow and some sharpened sticks. Any of the other weapons don't even need to hit to scare either variant of Timberwolves away. But all of this goes only for passing mode Timberwolves. Charging mode Timberwolves and their Aurora variants aren't reliably scared of any weapon. The only exception is the flare gun, though it only works reliably against the non-Aurora variant. So what's the best way to deal with Timberwolves depends on whether they are the Aurora variant or not, and also whether they stand in a scripted area that changes their behavior. Non-Aurora passing mode Timberwolves are the easiest to deal with, while Aurora struggle mode Timberwolves are the hardest. And the last way to deal with Timberwolves is to drain their morale, which will make them flee and leave you alone until you run into them again. It's not a very long-lasting solution, but can give you more peace than just walking through them with a light source. All the light sources and weapons deal some morale damage if they hit the wolf. Some of them don't even have to hit. Marine flares, which were created specifically to fight Timberwolves, exist primarily for this reason. They are the only light source that doesn't directly have to hit the wolf, you just have to throw it on the ground when it's nearby. Sometimes when you throw the flare it will drain the morale, but the wolf won't flee and stays near the flare. In these cases, it's best to just stand still and wait the wolf out. It will flee in a few seconds. Do not attempt to pick up the flare if it landed too close to the wolf or you will get bitten. The main problem with marine flares is that they don't last very long. I often find myself needing multiple marine flares to scare away one wolf pack. Flashlights also drain morale of Aurora Timberwolves. A quick flash of the high beam will save you even from a charging Aurora Timberwolf and deal a bit of morale damage in the process. Guns work quite well as long as the wolf isn't charging. As a rule, anything that makes noise doesn't have to hit to drain morale. Shooting a gun will drain some morale and scare wolves quite effectively, though if you do manage to hit or even kill the wolf, the morale will drop much lower. The bow will not deal morale damage unless you hit the wolf. Winning struggles against Timberwolves in struggle mode lowers their morale as well. Some tools lower it a lot more than others. Knives seem to be the best ones by far, followed by hatchets, and then by everything else. If you utilize safe spots where Timberwolves cannot reach you, draining their morale becomes a lot more simple. All you need is stones. They might not be reliable when it comes to scaring Timberwolves away, but each hit drains a little bit of morale. So, with enough stones, you can just take your time pelting the wolves with stones until they decide you're not worth it. Another option is to make a fire, which can act as a portable safe spot, and pull torches from the fire to throw at the Timberwolves. This isn't as costly as you only need to make fire once, and you can take as many torches as you need as long as you have the fuel. This doesn't work too well if it's windy, as the torches need to be lit, otherwise they won't deal any morale damage. It can be a bit annoying to use this against Timberwolves in passive mode, as they will keep running around and will rarely stay near the fire. Being weak, for once, helps. This is probably the only situation where being weak is actually advantageous. Timberwolves will stay around for a few seconds staring at you, which is plenty of time to throw torches around. And Timberwolves in struggle mode stay around regardless if you are weak or not. And while Aurora Timberwolves are not scared of fires, they still won't walk right through it, nor will they walk through torches, just like black wolves. This allows you to dance an Aurora Timberwolf around the fire. If you become good at it, you can even build a trap from torches and then keep throwing torches at the trapped wolf until the pack morale is completely drained. This can be a very efficient way to deal with Aurora Timberwolves once you get a hang of it. You could also use the standing on cooking slots trick I mentioned earlier. One last strategy that works against both regular and Aurora Timberwolves is to lure them to a bear or a moose. That will instantly scare the entire pack away. Timberwolf packs also automatically give up if an Aurora starts or ends. That covers pretty much everything you need to know about Timberwolves. Thank you for watching.